Hello, everybody. Melanie, how you doing?
Great, Tony.
Sure.
Yes, thank you. How about you? Excellent, excellent.
Are we live again?
Yeah,
Looks
again.
like it's slapping me. It's coming
Give me a few
every day. It's supposed to get better, but every day backwards. It's like we in a chicken, a hen or rooster, whatever one you call it,
Okay.
just running up and down.
That kind of thing. That
Yeah, we got
chicken without head.
we got a chicken without head. We run up and down, and the blood spitting all over the place when you chop the chicken off the head. Because that's how we doing.
Well, time for us to change that, eh? Yeah. I just see you wearing a wonderful T-shirt today. Yeah. Fun
Alzheimer's
run,
Association.
ride,
Fun run, ride,
walk.
walk.
Yeah.
Atomic Association. Yeah, check your eyes. Before I start the show, I had a question today. We can talk some controversy stuff today. But before I get in it, we have to answer our people.
Okay. Let me just check something.
Okay. So,
Okay.
the question is this. You ready for this?
Go ahead.
558-4982 live on the show, and you can talk to me, and you could beat me up as much as you want, and if you want to have a conversation
Comment
or
live.
comment live, you just
And
call me
feel
up,
free.
and then we back and forth. Anyway, the first thing on my phone,
Oh, there.
Melanie, is there from the Thomas Association, and we talking eye care here.
Uh-huh.
This person said, why they seeing flies?
Flies. Wow, that's
They seeing
interesting.
mosquitoes and flies, but there's no mosquitoes and flies. So it's like black.
Okay.
You think it's flies, so you try to kill them.
Right, right.
But you're seeing this blackness flying up, or like going across the eye.
When was the last time this person had an eye test?
I can't answer the question. I need to say what they say.
Well,
Answer the question.
the important thing with regards to that, there are a number of factors. You have to think about how old the person is.
65, I think.
Okay, so it's basically a senior citizen. And normal changes in the eye. And one of the things that happens in the eye, I always like to go to the anatomy in terms of the eye being shaped like a hockey ball, right? And the shape of the eye is actually maintained by a jelly-filled sac at the middle of the eye. The front part of the eye is a liquid, but at the back is actually jelly. And that jelly, as you get older, have a tendency to get kind of stiff. Like how your joints get stiff, the gel in the eye that keeps the eye with its shape, that have a tendency to stiffen up a bit. And with that, you will have kind of like spider web looks, and even like you say, the fly, because the eye is like a camera, and so as the light come through with that stiffness, you have a tendency to see like a little shadow, but that is actually a shadow from the jelly itself because of the stiffness that is there. But the important thing is to go and have the eye examined, because I'm giving you a simple explanation of a possibility, but that doesn't mean that that is what the problem is. Okay? So the only way, persons like to ask questions, but the best way to know what it is exactly is to actually go and have an eye exam.
So an eye exam that's what, and diagnose.
Yes, and you can go to an optometrist or you can go to an ophthalmologist, because they will be able to examine the eye. They may do some diagnostic tests, and that will help you to determine. But it's something that happens for persons as they get older. They may say they see in hair strands, or they may be seeing something that look like flies, or they may be seeing just little things that look like you looking at, but then when you look, it isn't there. And that's depending on the light amount of light entering the eye, as well as the direction and your age and the stiffness of the gel and all of that. So it isn't as easy. It's almost like casting a shadow because the light is coming, but the shadow is actually coming from that stiff gel, which is generally more liquid. It's like fat, when you allow fat to cool, it gets stiff, but if
Yeah.
heat applies to it, it gets more
It's
fluid.
loose.
Right. Well, as you age, that's the kind of effect that it has. Yeah.
And so they also, last question they want to know,
Mm-hmm.
if your eye started to bleed, what is the first thing you do? Do you put liquid in it, or you close it, or you?
Well, first and foremost, the eye doesn't just bleed.
Yeah, what I mean, they started to see red coming, all of a sudden just started to come like it looked like it blood bleeding or
Okay.
whatever.
Well, that means that that person definitely is somebody who might have diabetic changes in the eye, because it is not normal for
For
you
the
to
eye to
have
bleed.
redness in the
Redness
eye.
in the blood.
Right.
Yeah.
That is not normal, which means that there is something wrong, and it would most often occur in persons that are diabetic if they're having that red, which means the blood sugar level has been out of control for too long, that the blood vessels in the back of the eye begin to seep blood out, and that's abnormal. So they need to go and see an eye doctor.
They need to go see an eye doctor. Not put something in the eye and
No,
close the eye.
no, because that is a sign that you are in danger of losing your eyesight,
Okay.
and you need to get an examination, and the doctor will advise you on their findings and what you need to do in order to reverse it before it gets totally out of control.
Okay. All right. Well, you got your answer. Doc just had to give you the whole 9 yards. She said the best thing, get your eye tested. That's right. Go find a what? Ophthalmologist,
Ophthalmologist.
or optometrist.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, if you're having the bleeding, definitely you need to go and see an ophthalmologist.
Okay. Well, in any case, go to the doctor. Get your eye checked. That's what you say.
Go to an eye
Okay.
doctor.
So, I hope you're listening. You get your answer to that eye, whatever the questions you give me. And
Yeah,
that's what I do.
and the only thing I would add to that is, if you go into a private doctor, you don't need a referral. But if you're going to the government clinic, which I would recommend if you're having such a serious problem as that, don't bother trying to go to the clinic, because it will take a while. It's best to take a few dollars, get some help from your relatives, and go and see a private doctor, even if you get referred to the eye clinic afterwards.
Okay. All right. Anyway, our show, like I say today, is a controversy show, and it's gonna be one of those shows that Melanie loves. Don't mind, she don't like talking about this, but that's all right. Why foreigners don't like Bahamians?
I don't know. I don't know that that is the case.
Why?
Maybe
Why
the
you think that's
question
not the
might be
case?
why Bahamians don't like foreigners.
So you think that's how it goes? Bahamians don't like foreigners.
I am saying,
Yeah, but-
listen to this.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
There is no fixed ratio between whether it's a Bahamian against foreigner or foreigner, because it can be either way. It's a case by case kind of thing. And I know I said to you not to mention it, but for instance, I have a nephew that passed this week, and his common circle were people of foreign origin. He just loved people from all around the world, and he have no problems with them. It doesn't really matter where they come from, you know. People are people.
I take it then that you don't go out or you don't live in the Bahamas.
Why you would say that?
Because if you say Bahamians don't like foreigners, let me tell you why I say that. Look around. Just look around. The whole Bahamas only got foreigners. That's all we got is foreigners.
No, that ain't all
What?
we have.
Wait, hold on. No. You know much tourists come to the Bahamas?
Lots of tourists,
Okay,
especially since
so we
the
got to
door
love
opened.
foreigners.
Yeah.
Hold on, wait. We in the Bahamas don't even hire Bahamians in the house no more.
Well,
We love foreigners.
that is a
That's a war.
I want to refer to it as a economic dialogue, and persons in the Bahamas who use foreign workers have a reason for doing so. And that reason, according to most of them, is that the relationship is an easier one to establish. It's just like back in the day when Bahamians were predominantly in most of the what we would call domesticated jobs other than the restaurant, because right now the most of the Bahamians that are in the domestic field work either at a hotel or a restaurant. But private homes now, yes, they employ the Jamaicans, the Haitians, the Filipinos, and the Bahamians are not as visible. And I can say that because my mother worked as a housekeeper in Lyford Key for more than 50 years, but she worked with one family, right? And my experience going into that particular area of the Bahamas, Nassau in particular, you have actually seen the profile change where there are more foreigners in that area than Bahamians
All
are.
over Bahamas, all over. Not just in Laifiki.
Okay.
Foreigners are taking over everything. And let me tell you, now I can talk the controversy stuff. Let me tell you, this is what I'm getting at. Bahamians open their door. You know why? And especially the elites Bahamian. They want to put the Bahamas. See, elite Bahamians believe in slave. They know they can't slave you as a Bahamian woman because you can tell them straight, man, hold on.
Can I
Wait, let me
ask
finish.
you?
Let me finish. I don't want to lose my train. So what they do, they hire Filipinos, which is cheap labor. See, we talking about racism, the white people and the white people this and the white people that. Our own are doing to us. They don't hire Bahamian boys. They rather hire the construction workers. They rather hire Haitian. And not because the fellas don't work, you know. You know why? Because cheap labor, slave masters. They won't be slave masters, you see. And Bahamians hate Bahamians. And we so in love with foreigners. That's why we like foreigners. We so love foreigners. We bring them in our home. We trust them so much. We bring them in our home. We give our children them, our precious ones, for them to take care, for them to teach. They give, and check this out. Then I can let you go your thought. The Bahamians will only let their Haitian gardeners in their house, but they won't let Bahamian gardeners in their house.
You ready for me to
Go ahead,
respond?
do what you gotta do, because I can beat
The
you up
thing
today.
is, I wanted you to explain what you meant when you say they believe in slavery. What does that
Let me
look like?
Yeah, let me explain it. Bahamian will hire a Filipinos. The Filipinos will clean, iron, cook, pick up a children from school, bring them back, slave. Plus, late in the night, they got to serve them too. See, a Bahamian maid, when she see 5 o'clock, she going home.
Well, you know, the thing about that is there is a employment contract, and prior to employing the individual, you have the conditions of the work. Um, the difference is when the foreigners come into the country, they come looking for a better way of life. They come with a better attitude in terms of servanthood, and they also have the conditions of work permit and all of that. And so they rely on the person that they're employing. When a Bahamian look at another Bahamian, they see themselves as an equal. And so it's the servant attitude that the foreigner brings with them. But
Stop.
let me say this.
The what?
It's the
Servant?
servant attitude.
What's that?
It means that I am your servant. You employ me to do something. As far as Bahamians are concerned, we have regulations. I'm not your living maid, and so therefore, when you employ me to do specific tasks within your home. You don't employ me as a live-in situation, and so therefore, within the prescribed hours of the working relationship on the agreement that we establish, I deliver to you this, that, and the other, and you pay me for those services. When it comes to the foreign worker, they have a similar work condition. Now, when you talk about slavery, I see if you're going beyond the agreement, then yes, you are creating a kind of a slave master relationship with the
You
person
ever
that's
heard this
working
before?
with you.
You ever
Go
heard
ahead.
this before?
What?
The person who employ a Philippine or Haitian or Jamaican take their passport. You ever heard that before? Hold their passport.
No.
Well, that's what goes on. They hold their passport.
That's if they what you call subscribe or make an application for them to actually come into the country as an employee of theirs. And again, on those conditions, you're looking at work and living arrangements.
Listen, the Bahamian who hire these foreigners, they're looking for cheap labor. They're not. See,
But
when,
you
when you
know,
don't hire,
if-
when you don't hire, the key is this. Let's talk about the construction worker. I just want to go there. When you don't hire Bahamian boys because you want to hire Haitian men because you want cheap labor, what are you doing? Is telling the young men out there, go thief. Because ain't nothing else to do.
I don't know that is the
That's
exact
when
case.
you see we create Bahamians, Bahamian construction worker, the Bahamian force the worker. We create this. I don't want you. The
I want to
Bahamian boys,
go.
and so once I don't want the Bahamian boys. So now the Bahamian boys rebelling.
I want to go to the point of work ethics,
Go ahead. Work
where you say, I think you are saying pretty much the same thing, except that I say it's productivity. You get more bang for your bucks when you hire a foreigner, because the foreigner knows the value of the dollar in terms of where they are and what they intend to do. Their goal for working in your employ is to be able to make that money and send it home. The Bahamian, on the other hand, I want to make that money, but I want to be able to go home to my family and be able to meet the needs of my family, not just simply meet your family needs and leave my family needs undone.
But let me ask a question. You know, the very same people who complaining about money and being talking about these shows and talking this with finance and talking about this and how they executive for this situation, this and that. But all all the foreigners they got employed, they're the ones, and all the money goes out the country, but they're the ones telling you about how to save and how to. But all our money that they pay, they're Filipino maids and Filipino um, gardeners now and Filipino. They taking the money of the country, and so,
Well, you
but they sit on these shows and complaining about how this is not this and this is the one to work. But then they don't mind paying foreigners to take them or send the money on another country.
you know, Tony,
The humans are crazy.
as it relates to jobs that you're talking about, in terms of construction, in terms of housekeeping, the Department of Labor, Bahamians, if you are somebody seeking a worker and you submit that to the Department of Labor, the Department of Labor would go and they would try to find the appropriate person to match the job that you are offering. So it takes the Bahamians, if they want a housekeeping job, if they want a job in the field of construction, of course, you know, you have a tendency to blame Bahamians for this. But whilst they may partner in the what I would call the scaffolding mechanism, because you employ a Filipino to work and they are gonna ask you, you don't know nobody who looking for a maid, you don't know nobody who looking for, they themselves are recruiting their own relatives to bring them to the Bahamas so that they can have, I'm gonna quote again, a better way of life. So to say that it is that they are, the Bahamians are neglecting to employ their own, it's because of the web that is established.
Who established it?
How?
Who think established the web?
Well,
Bahamians,
if
right?
not, it
What
is
you
a
mean?
two-way street. It's a two-way street, meaning that whilst Bahamians, I know because I have a relative that lives on a family island, operate a restaurant, also has a farm, and they're looking for employees. But you're right, the amount of money that they can pay a foreigner, a Bahamian will not take. Right? So that's why I say it's a two-way street. It's about demand and supply. The supply, what I as a Bahamian am able to pay, another Bahamian is not willing to accept.
Agreed.
It's like you. You are somebody who can do virtually everything that you needs done for yourself. And when you go ahead and do it, what are the complaints you get from the people watching you? You want to hold on to all the money, right?
That's their complaint. Yeah, but remember this. I train myself to be marketable.
Okay.
But hold on. You are telling the Bahamian young man you ain't training them, you training the Haitian.
No.
In the construction field, the Haitians
No,
taking over.
no. The
Yeah.
Haitians,
The Haitians are taking over in the
come
construction field.
with their
No, that's not
with
true.
their capability.
That's not
Well,
true.
guess what? Maybe that's why too.
The
Because
Bahamians are
guess
training
what?
them.
Because guess what? You see, now you bring in another spin to this whole relationship. And you know what the spin is? The Haitians don't know nothing, so they can afford to take the small money. The Bahamians go there with the knowledge, right? And they know already what it is that they're supposed to be doing, even though half of them don't know. And ain't open to learning what they need to know.
But this slave master attitude the Bahamians have now. Bahamians don't even want to clean their own house. They ain't need no maid, but they're saying clean their own house.
Because they're tired.
No, they ain't
When
tired.
you done work
No.
on a job, if you're working on a job, that's why a lot of people ain't
My mother
succeeding.
work on the job, you know.
Man, stop talking
All my life, my mother work and
foolishness.
she come home, cook, clean, and feed me. And feed my old man. And serve us and take the food. And wash all our clothes. And keep the house sparkling. And have children.
So what that tells you?
What it tells me that y'all find an excuse. You find an excuse for it.
Let me tell you. And you know where you find the excuse? Right in the pulpit, when the pastor tells you the Bible say that the younger generation are wiser, but they're weaker. So if I am wiser and weaker, I can go out there and I can hold down the job. But by the time it's that 8 hour finish on that job, I am drained, I am weak, I am tired. I don't have the energy to come home and do what my mother was able to do.
What you think the Philippines do? You don't think they come home too and do
No, no, they leave their family where they come from. And all they do is they slave for the money, and then they go home and they sleep and they go back on the job. And a lot of Bahamians are doing that. The same people who don't want to hire another Bahamian to clean their house. I don't know what teachers do, but I can sure tell you there are nurses who work almost 24 hours a day. They work at least twice 8 to 16. They work at least 16 hours a day, 5 days out of the week.
But the myth is that Bahamians don't work, or Bahamians can't work, or Bahamians. That's a myth. That's not true. If you go around here,
It's a relationship thing.
If
It's
you
an
go-
attitude.
if you go around here, wherever you go, I could use Christian for the example. I could use many here around here. Cassell as example. These guys, Waldino, these young men on a hustle every day. They work two some jobs sometimes. Cassell work 3, 4. See, Bahamians, we are doing a disservice to Bahamians until we stop this slave. See, the excuse is, listen to the excuse what they give. Oh, but I don't want a Bahamian in my house because a Bahamian talk my business.
Well, that's one spin on
Yeah.
it.
But see, no, that's a cop-out because you want this white-colored person in your house and who you could see. It's a classist thing. So you could now, somebody say, well, oh man, my housekeepers do that, my housekeeper this, my housekeeper that. See, watch what you set up because it is a far-reaching effect. I could say this, and you know I ain't ashamed, I ain't scared of nothing. I say 98% house and life key, all Filipinos now. Cable Beach, about 75%. It's migrating and soon could take over the whole Bahamas. And you know why it's happening?
I would say the entire West Bay Street
Yeah.
has,
Filipinos,
because you
yeah. You
you
see them
go,
every day.
you pass the road around 4, anywhere between 3:30 and 4:30, and the buses are just full
Yeah.
with them.
I have no problem. I don't want nobody tell me nothing. I have no problem with Filipinos. I have no problem. They're my best friends.
Or they your best friends?
Yeah, I have every house I do in Life Key is a Filipino, and we get along well. That's not the issue here. The issue is that we so lying, so we have these hidden agendas
See, Tony, again,
where we only want to slave people. See, Bahamians like to have this. Oh, I have somebody waiting for me. Let's talk. Oh, we got to stop
well,
this slave master mentality.
again,
Right?
again, I am gonna say this. When people work hard for their money, they want that money to go as far as it can without them having to spend extra. So, if I could pay a Filipino to clean my house, take care of my children, and I pay them $100 a week, but I have to pay a Bahamian $110 a week, I can choose to fill it because I save in $10.
Yeah, but that's what you could say. But it is not right
Why? What makes it wrong?
because you have a country to build. You have a country to build. And you are destroying your own country because these foreigners send their money. The Haitians send it to Haiti, the Filipinos to the Filipinos. Remember this. Every time you hire one of these folks, that's money coming out your country. I'm not saying don't hire them. What I'm saying, this slave master thing, you gotta be careful. You really trying to save a penny? That's what it is? and have all these young boys not working. Now the young boys saying to y'all, the hell with y'all, they don't want nothing to do with y'all. Because y'all didn't want nothing to do with them. And so now they're making a mess in society. And you, when you come with your white Honda and park it by the food store, they come and carry it because they mean to carry it. Because they realize you don't care about them. And that's, I only can tell you what they tell me when I sit down and talk with them, you know. These guys break these things down to me just like I break it down. I's a Montelites man. And you'd be surprised to know. Let me share something with y'all. I hope I should share this. Let me share. The police force scared of the amount of guns on the street. The police force scared of guns. I can tell you. Don't mind them, all this big chest speeding up and down. They scared of these boys on the street. Okay?
Shouldn't they be? They have a life that can be lost.
No, they shouldn't.
What should they do?
I mean, and our next show is going to be security, national security, security of this country, and how the police force working towards keeping us safe. And I'm going to share some stuff that, like I say, just let me give you this nugget and then we can close. And I'll share it next week. You know how majority of my cousins and my friends get on the police force? The corrupt police force, let me tell you how. If it wasn't for my uncle and my aunt and your uncle and aunt didn't send their son to the police force because they saw him going with it and they know he's crooked, say, boy, come, let me send you to the police force and make sure you go on the force, so have some discipline. Okay? You got more bandits on the police force than any place else. So I'm going to explain some of this stuff to you next week.
Okay, so as we wrap up
Yeah, we
this
gotta wrap up now.
discussion on Bahamians employment, I take the stance that yes, a lot of foreigners are employed in the homes by other winter residents as well as what you would call the elite Bahamian. But at the end of the day, everything is about supply and demand. And if you are an elite Bahamian and you are making a certain amount of money, your money have to go towards your housing, it have to go towards your children education, have to go towards your healthcare, insurances, and all these things. So you cannot afford to bring a Bahamian to do the same work that you could get somebody to do for less.
Let me shock you before we close. I wasn't going to say the bank says. You call it cheap labor. You don't have to pay $3,000 a year for work permit when you hire a Bahamian. So it's not cheaper. That's fool talk. That's
But
not,
do you know
it just talk.
do you know though that
I know
the foreigner actually pays for their own permit? It's just that the
the
employer is the
first
one who
time-
submits
the first time you bring him here, you pay for it. The second time, they got to pay for it or something. All right? So I don't see why it's cheaper. And majority of people pay for the
You get longer hours out of them than you get from Bahamian stuff.
slave master.
And you also get
slave.
quality
You get pretty hair.
service.
Pretty hair, yellow skin.
Quality service,
Yeah.
and the relationship is not strained because they are very respectful. They ain't telling you, I gotta go because I gotta go pick up my child, or I gotta go and I gotta do this and all of that.
You could
So
skid around the corner. You could scoot around the corner this.
It
It's a
is
slave master
more.
mentality.
It is more
I got
than
my
just the money going out of the country.
I got my slave. I got my slave so I could tell everybody, oh, I got a house, keep a child. I don't do that. It's all the slave mentality.
Well, anyhow,
Anyway,
I hope that
folks,
our viewers will, when they
hit us
see
up.
this, they will
Comment.
provide a comment
so
so
we
that
can-
we can be able to not only get your opinion and my
Everybody-
opinion, but that
everybody has
people
opinion.
can actually say, okay, I think Tony is right or I think Melanie is wrong, you know, and let's get this, because I think that my reasoning and the way that I see it is that people are looking to get more bang for their bucks.
I don't think so. I think it's just the slave mentality. We're gonna disagree to agree, but what we're gonna do, we'll like to hear your comment, and we'll discuss it discuss it
Further
Bishop,
next week. Yeah.
Next week. Anyway,
Thank you for
this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. It's Mel and Tony under the tree where we meet every Saturday 4 o'clock. Love you all. Enjoy your day.
join us next week.
Go to choice of your choice tomorrow, and join us next week. 4
If
o'clock.
you didn't go today.
See ya. Bye bye. Have a great day.